self-publishing itself definitely has a bit of a stigma still attached to it. I know one thing that I was really surprised at, if I can share a bit of a quick story for me to see what your thoughts are. As you know, I finally, as even though I've been reviewing books and movies and things for quite a long time, about 15, 17 something years, uh, I finally decided to go on the other side of the fence and do a self-published book myself, a collection of all of my books. And rather than so people don't think that I'm just giving a shameless plug, one of the amazing things that you did when I joined you for one of your book launches is you totally put me on the spot and put the spotlight on me and asked me to talk about that, which I thought is amazing. For folks out there as well that are watching, I mean, just an extra kudos to you, Jeff, as being a fantastic person, as somebody that really is paying it forward. You're not afraid to share the limelight if it means that maybe some other folks will kind of, get a bit of an opportunity on that shared light as well. And I think that the horror genre as a whole, self-publishing is such a shared community, but those same values definitely aren't shared by people that you would expect to share them. For example, I took one of my some of my books, or my book, some of them, to a bookstore that had previously agreed to take a look at them, put them on the shelf, and this kind of leads to my question to you, Jeff, is that when I demonstrated them to him, he didn't realize what I self-published through. So I self-published through KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing, which a lot of, or I think all of your self-published books are primarily sold through as well. You use the same platform. And he said, "Oh, use KDP. Oh, I don't know about that." And he kind of made a major about face with that. And I'm like, "Oh, have you had a bad experience with that?" And he said, "Well, let's just put it this way." He's like, "As far as I'm concerned, KDP is like the frozen mixed vegetables of the publishing world." And I didn't know what that meant. I mean, I wanted to ask him his opinion. I wanted to put it on him to really see what he thought. But at the same time, here's a guy that wants to put my books on the shelves. So I just kind of focused on, yeah, but I've got this guy in here and this guy in here, and I know lots of great people. Hey, have you heard of a guy named Jeff Strand who has essentially built, the plateau of his career on self-publishing? So there's people that make their careers on this stuff. So that's interesting. He said that, and I kind of left it at that. But I walked away thinking, you know, this is a bookseller. I mean, what's he doing condemning self-publishing essentially? I mean, luckily he did put some of my books on the shelf, but I'm he's obviously not going to promote them. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, do you still come across that quite a bit in your career and your path? Do you still come across people that think, "Oh, you self-publish on KDP? Oh, that's terrible."
Not
Why
a
do you think
lot.
that's
Part of
there?
it is one of the things you give up when you're self-publishing is, for the most part, bookstore distribution. So, I have kind of stopped worrying about that part. And I
Yeah,
knew going in, that's it. If you go into a bookstore and say, hey, here's my self-published book, will you put it on the shelves? The answer will probably be no. They can order it, it's available in their systems, but I understand that with the career choice I made, my stuff isn't going to be on bookshelves. And does it matter? It depends on the book. With my young adult books, I need a publisher. It's like,
yeah,
what do they bring to the table? They bring a lot to the table because my books are really heavily toward the library market, and they're toward the bookstore market because I'm writing for an audience that doesn't have credit cards. And so they aren't really on Amazon buying stuff. They go into a bookstore or they go into their school library. So for the young adult stuff, I can't self-publish that. The publisher brings too much to the table. Any YA book I tried to self-publish would be a failure.
gotcha.
With the horror stuff, I've got, the fan base that I've built up over all this time, and then it becomes a case of 70% royalties versus 6% royalties. And 70% royalties means that I make a full-time living at this and I don't have to have a day job. And being able to make a full-time living writing books gets rid of a lot of the, people think I'm a loser because I'm self-published. If
Yeah,
a lot of people who are traditionally published aren't anywhere close to making a living at it, and I do. So, from that standpoint, the "I'm superior to you" doesn't work out quite as well. When I was with Leisure, I wasn't making anywhere close to enough to quit my day job. Like, I wasn't making enough to quit my day job for, to take a brief leave of absence. But once I started fully going self-publishing, because my percentage of the pie is so much bigger, then it changed everything. And you
Right.
know, the books may sell in smaller quantities, but I'm getting a lot more of it. So it works out. I make way, way more self-publishing, which is not true
Okay.
for everybody. But in
Yeah.
my particular case, and part of it is that I had built up a fan base over a long time, a lot of it through traditional publishing. So if I'm selling mass market numbers and then switch to self-publishing and I keep a decent percentage of that fan base, then it works out really well. But
Yeah.
there are pros and cons. Pros are I have total control over the books. I don't have someone changing the title. I don't have someone saying, here's your cover. Well, I don't like the cover. Guess what? You don't get to,
Right.
you have no say in that. We're writing your back cover copy for you, whether you like it or not. I have total control over the way the product looks, with the disclaimer that, I don't get to tell Lynn exactly what to do every step of the way. It's kind of, she has a
Yeah.
little bit more power in the cover because I don't get to say, no, that cover sucks. No, I, which they don't. I always like
Absolutely.
the
Yeah.
cover. But in terms of the power dynamic there, she has a little bit more power over what the cover looks like than I do. But I control the final product and I can change the final product whenever I want. So if I get the email, Dear Mr. Strand, I enjoyed your book, but you should know that on page 37 there's a typo. Thanks for letting me know. I can change that. You can't change that with a traditionally published book, but I can fix anything. If I get a review, I can upload the new, if it's a like, hey, that review will sell copies, I can change that to the Amazon listing immediately. And I can, you know, if I decide I want to put it on sale, I can put it on sale anytime I want. If I want to, I have total control over the final product, which is really nice.
So basically,
And
you're a control freak.
to some degree, yeah, I've become a control freak.
Good.
And
Good.
so a lot of that stuff is really nice. There are, downsides to it. There is, you know, the marketing budget is way, way less when I am paying for it myself.
Right.
Although a lot of times traditional publishers, they aren't doing any marketing anyway. So you're not giving up that much. It's the books they market tend to be the ones they don't need to market. So it's like, hey, everybody, it's really important that you know that Stephen King has a new book out. So here's our really expensive marketing campaign, even though you probably are aware that Stephen King has a new book out.
Yeah. It seems like it's more about marketing their brand as a publisher than it is about marketing the actual book that they don't need to market, like you mentioned.
So, a lot of it is, the ego boost. Look, it is nice to walk into a bookstore and see your book there. But
Sure.
I've also had that experience where I walk into books and see my books there. So it's not like I've given that up completely. It's a distant memory instead of a current one. And so, yeah, Deathless is not, you're not going to walk into your local Barnes Noble and see Deathless on the shelves, probably, but you can get it online, and that's one of the sacrifices I had to make to, you know, keep full control over the book, publish it when I want to
Yeah.
publish it, and, you know, make enough money off of it that I don't have to also work for a corporation during the day. So,
Right. And
sure.
it's very socially conscious of you as well, because of course, as we're going through this pandemic, it helps people out so they don't have to go into a crowded bookstore. They can just, in the comfortable confines of their own isolation, they can just give a couple of clicks and wait around for a knock at the door and receive their book through the mailbox, and it's perfect. You're making the world a better
We'll
place,
pretend that, even though I would rather my books be in bookstores, but
of
we'll
course.
pretend that it was really for the public health that I embrace self-publishing. It's not for, I don't
Absolutely.
want to, this should definitely not be Jeff Strand says you should self-publish because it's not the right decision for everybody. Obviously, the big, you know, advantage I have is that my wife does the covers and she does professional level covers, which
Yeah.
saves me a lot of money. So if you're investing, and she also does the formatting.
Okay. I was
Well,
going to ask you about that.
there are the expenses that come with self-publishing a book where, that are deducted from the money you make from it that I
Yeah.
don't have because I have that stuff covered. So it's pretty much for me pure profit once the book starts selling. And that's not the case for everybody. So if your books aren't selling at the level where you can pay for professional cover and professional formatting and all that stuff, then it becomes, there are more factors to the decision. But
Yeah.
I'm fortunate in that my books are essentially, aside from the time put into them, they're free to publish. And so I'm making profit from day one.
Hey everybody, thanks so much for tuning into this episode of Dark Bites, your destination for uncovering the greatest voices working in dark culture entertainment today. If you haven't already, feel free to subscribe and turn on the notifications so you don't miss what's coming next. And most importantly, please do give the like button some skin because it not only declares your mutual love for this dark thing of ours, but it also tells YouTube algorithm powers that be to spread the word about this channel's content, which ultimately helps us all out. Thanks for visiting Dark Bites. I appreciate you. I wouldn't be here without you, and I do hope you'll come back again. Until then, fellow horror lovers, stay hungry, stay dark.